Hello. It's good to see you. Today, we're going to be flipping through a little magazine. This is a magazine titled Our State, and it's about the best state down home in North Carolina. Now, this is an old issue. This is from 2014. And we're just going to be flipping through here. Somebody said they would like it if I would do another video just flipping through a magazine and reading things from it. So I have this one. I thought it would be a fun one to kind of flip through. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out flipping through and finding stuff to read. I'm kind of interested to read this main article here. It's a good debate question for you. Pie versus cake. Which do you like better? Which side are you on? Now that doesn't start in this magazine until page 90. So you get pretty far into it before you get to that part. We have two little sayings about it. Cake is the backyard swing set to the demure patio of pie. And yes, where I come from, it is pronounced pie. I can't help that. Pie will make you stand and salute. Cake will make you sit and admire. And it may be funny the way we say pie, but you want a really good homemade pie? And the South is the place to go get it. Okay, now let's take a look at this magazine. We have a little advertisement for Lenore Ryan University. Real estate. What other articles and things do we have? Oh, doesn't this look yummy? So we do have the main article, Pie versus Cake. There can only be one best. To settle the debate once and for all, we've asked masters and critics of the sweet science of baking to weigh in on which slice deserves the title of all-time greatest. Personally, I'm more of a cake person overall. Walking through the hall with a legend, photo essay, historic kitchens, the Sonker, S-O-N-K-E-R, I don't know what that is, a Carolina cake tour, an ode to fried perfection, eating easy as pie or a piece of cake, perfect pound cake, and love by the slice. Well, that is some good looking stuff. I was just reading this here. It's from Clara Marie's Authentic Southern Bakery, owned by Carla Comer, who is originally from Greensboro, or she lived in Greensboro at least. BB&T. Jewelry. Fink's Jewelers. I know where that is. Actually, you know what? I think Fink's Jewelers, they used to be located on Battleground Avenue. I think that location closed. I don't know if they have another one or not. It looks like they have a location, two in Charlotte, one in Raleigh, and one in Durham. But there was one here, but it did close. Oh, here's something. Sonker, S-O-N-K-E-R. I may be saying that wrong. Sonker is a deep dish pie native to Surry County, where a festival is held in its honor. I have never heard of that, and I'm not far from Surry County, but I'm not familiar with that. Randolph Cancer Center. And in here we have these little cards that you can mail in to get subscriptions to the magazine. Letters to the editor. The Hatteras Storytelling Festival. Flight of Fancy. The cardinal represents North Carolina, but maybe A vanished breed should be our state bird. No, I think it needs to stay the cardinal. That's my opinion. Carolina culture, North Carolina's literature, music, art, and theater. Look at that box turtle. Living room concerts. In a quiet corner of Durham, a neighborhood clubhouse moonlights as a roots music venue. It feels like a secret society. The unlikely location at a neighborhood clubhouse, the drive on dark and looping suburban streets to get there, and especially the man at the door who checks names against the list on his clipboard. But aside from how relatively few people know about them, 40 Acres concerts aren't secret or exclusive. Anyone can purchase tickets, pack a cooler with beer or wine, and drive out past U.S. Highway 15501 for somewhere quieter on the edge of Durham for the living room feel of the Five Oaks Clubhouse. This is where a community occasionally gathers for Saturday night concerts. At shows in warmer months, when the sun sets later, you can see the surrounding woods through floor-to-ceiling windows. But during winter, early darkness obscures all but the shaggy outline of pine trees, and the glass instead reflects soft light in the faces of concert goers. Tonight, on one such crisp, blue-black evening, the musicians are Nashville-based singer-songwriter David Olney and guitarist Sergio Webb. Olney's is a loping, theatrical kind of folk music. Some of his songs tell jokes, and they all tell stories. But over the course of his set, Olney's performance turns poignant, especially when he plays a hushed cover of Townes Van Zant's Snowin' on Raton. The audience is captivated. This is what they came for, a close, meaningful evening with an expert performer. At some shows, the interaction between fans and musician is playful. At others, it's like this, musician pouring out his soul for a rapt audience just a few feet away. Behind Olney and Webb, and all who play here, a banner sums up the experience neatly. It says, "Welcome back home." Isn't that cool? I've never heard of that. Home for the arts. Statesville. I know where Statesville is. For the highway traveler with stiff muscles and an empty belly, this town is a perfect stop. Looks nice. They do have some good barbecue in Statesville. Strike. Demands for higher pay and a 40-hour work week ignite a furor in Gastonia, 1929. McCall's Barbecue. That's in Goldsboro. That's that Eastern barbecue. Travel to Scotland with our state. Of course, that was back in 2014. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? I want to go there. I'm going to go one of these days. I'm going to get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to read about cake versus pie, or pie versus cake. And then we're going to spend some time just flipping through the magazine some more. Just keep doing this. Ooh, look at that. NC Glass Fest. That's at Star Works down in Star, North Carolina. It's in the middle of the state. A premier North Carolina handmade functional and culinary glass sale. Hey, I wonder if that's something they'd still do. I really want to take you to Star Works and let you see some of the glass that they make down there. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And you can take classes there and learn how to do it. Historic kitchens. This is at Biltmore. I've seen this. I've seen that. This is Carl Sandburg. What does that say? Yeah, Carl Sandburg. In the 1940s, when poet Carl Sandburg and his wife Lillian, whom he called Paula, bought the flat rock house known as Connemara circa 1830s, one of their first undertakings was renovating the outdated kitchen. The couple outfitted the space with quote-unquote modern white metal cabinets and Paula's beloved Westinghouse stove. It's right here. This was a hard-working kitchen, and Paula was a hard-working woman. For the 20 years she lived at Connemara, she devoted her life to her 30 head of dairy goats and helped pioneer new breeding methods that improve the taste of milk. Well, that's a nice stove. Look at that. What is that? This font is hard to read. I never can remember how this is pronounced. I'm not even going to try. I am not from there, and that's one of the places in North Carolina that I can't pronounce. This is Bennett Place. Winkler Bakery. This is the Polk House. Somerset Place. Battleship, North Carolina. I've been there. I've been through the Battleship a couple of times. People were tiny back then. All the little openings and everything, and the ceilings are low. Okay, here we go. Pie versus Cake. Written by Scott Hewler and Kathleen Purvis. There can only be one best, and when it comes to dessert, the choice really comes down to two. Pie or cake. Better luck next time, ice cream. To help settle, well, no, you put the ice cream on the pie. To help settle the debate once and for all, we've asked masters and critics of the sweet science of baking to weigh in on which slice deserves the title of greatest of all time, or at least the best to eat with a cold glass of milk. Well, to me, a cold glass of milk goes better with cake. It just seems like people have coffee with a piece of pie. Well, not me, but most people. The choice is simple. Cake, or maybe pie. No, definitely cake. Probably. Choosing between two worthy desserts may not be possible. Well, to me, it depends on the kind of cake, and it depends on the kind of pie. I mean, there are some I like, more than others. Anyway, let's read about cake and pie. Ladies and gentlemen of North Carolina, life's difficult choices have left us a divided state. Our challenge is to find middle ground, yet we see matters in black and white. You are with me or against me, good guy or bad guy, red or blue. I have long placed myself in the purple area of the spectrum, yet we all know, painful as it is, one has to choose. For me, that moment has come. Despite my equivocating, the editors of this magazine have required that I make my choice. This month is National Cake Month. It is also National Pie Month. Hands on hips, the editors stare me down. Which is it? Are you a cake person or a pie person? Like a voter in a voting booth, I face down my options, and I choose. First, let's discuss. Some things are obvious. Pie it goes almost without saying, is a more mature dessert, a more complex, multi-layered experience in both the eating and the making. A pie can be dinner, shepherd's pie, chicken pot pie, or dessert. It can be simple, apple pie, or surprising, rutabaga in a pie? Seriously? And the crust alone takes an hour of patient rolling, folding, cooling, waiting, rolling again. A pie is patience. After you've spent hours on the crust, you still have to prepare and cook down the filling. Often you have to pre-cook the crust. Like a city, a pie requires planning and even zoning. You organize your counters into crust area, filling area, rolling, assembly, and then you cook it long and slow. When finished, a pie is a subtle melange of crust and filling, a mellifluous blend of ingredients stewing together into an aromatic whole. Pie has complexity going for it. It has depth. There is, after all, no pie mix. So then, cake. Cake rebuts all that adult complexity with a single word: sweet. Cake is never savory. And if cake is the main dish, don't judge me. It means you are having either the best day or the worst day of your life. You don't run into rutabaga cake, do you? Carrot cake, to be sure, but the name is actually a scam. The most significant carrot contribution to most carrot cakes is a big orange carrot on the top, made of sugar. So, sugar. Sweetie, sweet, sweet. That's cake. You mix up eggs and butter and flour and sugar and a few other things, and you fling it into the oven, and in a few short minutes it rises into this pillowy, fragrant, eye-roll-inducing cloud of warm sweet. And then on top, instead of a crust that takes an hour to roll out, into which gentle vents are lovingly sliced, you put frosting. Great big swoops and gobs of frosting. Frosting. That gilding of the lily, that shock-inducing fluff of butter and sugar that takes the cake experience from enjoyment to ecstasy. Yes, there is icing, to be sure, but in my opinion, cakes that call for icing, basically a sugary glaze, misunderstand the function of both elements. Cake is fundamentally little more than a delivery device for frosting. And frosting borders on the reason for existence. I'm asking you, did anybody ever glance around, stick out a finger, and sneak a swipe of pie when nobody was looking? No, that's a cake thing. That's a frosting thing. That's a kid thing. Cakes are for kids and for the kid inside you. You almost want to spell it cake, like K-A-K-E. Cake is the backyard swing set to the demure patio of pie. Mind you, I've cooked my share of complex cakes. I have made a black forest cake with the whipping cream and the narrow layers and the shaved chocolate and the kirsch. It's always an enormous hit at parties, but still, it's cake. With sweet whipped cream covered by chocolate instead of traditional frosting, yes, but still. Big corners of dessert with that right angle of sugary perfection embracing the cakey matrix below. So I'm not saying you can't complicate a cake if you want to. I'm just saying it's big, sweet fun. With pie, you close your eyes and make the tasting face, then some kind of comment. With cake, you just kind of cram it into your mouth until you run out. But a warm pie for dinner can turn a chilly winter day into a Hallmark commercial for home, with steaming windows and meaty aromas greeting you when the door swings open. I'm guessing this person is going to say they're a pie person. They're leaning towards pie. A cherry pie for dessert has a kind of melting comfort that so perfectly accompanies a cup of coffee. See, I said so. You'd think they were invented by the same person on the same day. But who wants to do without cake? Without, and I admit this proudly, the best cake of all. A yellow cake you made from a mix covered by the entire contents of a can of frosting. Yes, you heard me, a can of chocolate frosting. Yellow cake mix, cake and canned frosting? I declare this the king of cakes, the platonic ideal of cakey goodness, warm, sweet, chocolatey, and eaten before you even know it. Nobody has ever had leftovers from yellow cake mix cake with canned chocolate frosting. Locusts cringe in embarrassment. Piranhas avert their gaze when presented with the carnage left by a table of people attacking a yellow cake with chocolate frosting. My older son, has actually asked me to make a yellow cake with chocolate frosting for his birthday. And I'm going to do it. So, okay, my voting booth dilemma begins to resolve. A suburban kid, I didn't grow up with cooling pies on a windowsill. My childhood was defined by birthday party frosting sugar comas. For us, a pie was a chunk of frozen chicken and goop clumping out of a Swanson box. I have learned to love pie, to make pie, to eat it, to savor it. But cake, oh, I was wrong. Oh, Sophie's choice. Cake, curse you, I choose cake. I thought they were going to choose pie. I mean, if pressed, I'd grit my teeth and do without pie. But it's kind of like saying I'd rather lose my left leg than my right. I would prefer to have both, though fundamentally a cake person. I believe our state needs pie just as much. Citizens of North Carolina, we can come together. We can choose the purple middle ground, and we can prosper in love and fellowship. Like every politician ever, I believe in and promise you the impossible. I believe we can have our cake and eat pie too. Yeah, I'm definitely more of a cake person myself. So that was one person. Here's another one. There's no debate, really. Pie rules. Whether you're talking about eating a slice of pie after dinner or baking one from scratch, cake doesn't stand a chance. On the course of human events, certain questions seem to plague us. Republican or Democrat, gas or charcoal, paper or plastic, cake or pie. As a newspaper writer, I never address the first question and approach the second and third with caution. But on that last one, I have to return the serve with another question. Eating or cooking? The difference frames the question entirely for me. If I am choosing to eat something someone else has created, I need to weigh the odds that I'm putting my taste buds in the hands of someone whose skills and choices, baking-wise, might be suspect. On the misery index, there's not much wiggle room here. A slice of bad pie is a wedge-shaped piece of cardboard. Bad cake tastes of dry crumbs and sadness. Either one can make you regret a full minute of your allotted time for calories on earth. In the hands of a good cook, though, the best decision between cake and pie is no decision at all. Soft, moist cake mounted between layers of ethereal icing, or tender, flaky pie crust filled with something that reaches toward heaven? There is no bad choice here. Every lift of the fork will reward you. The calories may settle on your hips, but regret won't weigh long on your heart. The other side of the question, though, is the cooking issue. Am I the baker here? If I am to do the baking, which do I choose? As I consider the baking of cake, the first thought that enters my mind is guilt. Will I have to wrestle with the shame of choosing to sneak a box mix into my oven so I can save my efforts for the decorating? I am not gifted in the pretty food department. I have had occasion to weep over the difference between what I envisioned putting on a cake plate and the reality. Skimpy frosting bumpy with crumbs, icing that drooped instead of draped, curlicues that curled up and died. I used to buy cake decorating equipment with the hope and excitement of an acne-prone teenager perusing the skincare aisle. The frosting comb will be the thing that finally turns me into a bombshell with a pastry bag. This set of decorating tips will finally make my buttercream behave like Tintoretto's oils. My bake sale offering will become legend. My office party creation will gather an audience. This is important to consider because, sadly, the best cakes are about appearances. Sure, you can skip the frosting and turn your back on the box mix, but you may not have your virtue rewarded. Oh, how well I know the disappointment of cake failure, my friends. The tough crumb, the uneven layer, the scorched edges. When it comes to cake dreams, the sunken center cannot hold. Instead, let's consider the issue of pie. Pie, it is true, can also involve a little cheating. I have danced with the doughboy in his red cardboard box of crusts. There are times when you need pie, and a perfectly good pie crust just waiting to be unrolled is a wonder of modern food manufacturing. But I make that confession knowing that I am capable of producing a respectable scratch crust, and I do it often enough to keep my hand in. I even make it with real lard sometimes, just to remember the textural goodness my ancestors enjoyed in the years BC, before cardiology. When you get right down to it, though, the true point of pie is not to showcase the crust, wonderful as it may be, but what is inside the crust. Peaches, pecans, apples, bananas, peanut butter, or lemon custard topped with meringue. Or, oh, my personal favorite trip to the dreamland called Pie Nirvana, blueberry and lemon. You can mash up a sweet potato with some eggs, sugar, and flour, put it in a pie crust, and end up with something better than any root vegetable has a right to become. You've got nothing else? Whisk together eggs, sugar, and melted butter for chess pie. Try making a cake with such an empty larder. You won't get anything that will even stand up on a plate. No, for the cook, the case is made. Cake is a showcase of itself. Pie is a showcase of American bounty, a crust-cupped cornucopia of the best of our great land. Cake will make you sit and admire. Pie will make you stand up and salute. Can she make a cherry pie, Billy boy, Billy boy? Then send her to my house. I'll welcome her with open arms just as soon as I take away her pie. And that's from Kathleen Purvis. She is the food editor of the Charlotte Observer. Look at that. Look at that pie. An ode to fried perfection. Handheld and made to last and last and last. Convenience store fried pies hold a special place in the hearts of many. Boy, these things have been around forever. Oh my goodness. These days, I am a discriminating eater. If they say kale and quinoa are good for you, then that is what I eat. But it wasn't always this way. I grew up eating food junkier than a Myrtle Beach mall. Cheetos, chocolate sodas, squirrel nut zippers. My mother did not cook during basketball season. She was too busy worrying over how her Tar Heels would fare, so we ate McDonald's. At McDonald's, we topped off our burgers and fries with what they call a turnover. Yeah, I called it a fried pie. It was fresh and hot, but far inferior to the Hostess version. The Hostess cherry pie, my preference over lemon, apple, and chocolate, had an alluring wrapper, dark red with a plump magician decked out in a top hat and a green cape waving a wand over two equally plump cherries. I never turned down a turnover, but I preferred the real fried pie, the kind I purchased at Boykin's store in Clinton, where I hung out after school running up a tab on Funyuns and fried pies while shooting pool with my buddy Sam Lockamy. Pie purists might dismiss the subject of this love song because no one had ever used the word fresh in the same sentence as a Hostess fried pie. Even back in the day, before the invention of healthy diets and the discovery of cholesterol, I must have known that my pies had been sitting on the shelf for 6 weeks. I don't even want to know what kept them from going bad. I have never liked it when people use the word preservative in any context, save slapping some aluminum siding on an old house. Surely some uniformed fellow driving a step van came around occasionally and checked the expiration dates. But what was in my pie that might expire? Hadn't the cherries expired as soon as they were plucked from the tree? As for the dough, it was probably made before I was. Probably. When I was 20 years old, I left college, or rather, I was asked not to return, and headed west to Seattle, where I spent some time living with my older sister. With 2 years of college and a GPA lower than my age at the time, about the only thing I was qualified to do was restaurant work. I got a job utilizing a skill I had never in my life even attempted, washing dishes. The restaurant was called the Deluxe. I worked the 7 to 3 shift, and every morning I bought a Hostess cherry fried pie from the convenience store across the street from my bus stop. I was shocked to find my pies in Seattle. I was under the impression they were regional delicacies. How could I know what was and what was not nationally distributed, given that I had hardly left Sampson County, much less the state? Every morning around 10, Gary, the head chef, brought me the remnants of some dessert for which he was famous. He let me know about his renown the first week I started. For some reason, there was always a little left over, and he always brought it to me to polish off. I think he did so because none of the previous dishwashers had lasted more than 2 weeks, and he figured I would never quit once I tasted his famous dessert. Every day, the same routine. Gary would bring me the leftovers of his dessert, and I would force it down while he stood too close to me, awaiting my reaction. Every day I would say, "Yum," or "Wow," or "What is this called again?" "Baklava," he would sigh, and I would refrain from saying that they ought not to give a dessert a name so similar to something some old boy pulled over his head before he robbed a bank. Nor did I tell Gary that I much preferred a fried pie to his masterpiece. I was hesitant to say the words fried pie out loud. The line cooks and wait staff already mocked my accent when we took our mid-morning breaks to smoke outside in the ever-present rain. They had taken to calling me Gomer Pyle to my face. The last words on earth I wanted to utter in their presence beside "ol" or "on" would be fried pie. Given that the I's in each word were longer than the bus I rode to work. I should have gone ahead and told them that I loved some fried pie, because in the end it was my accent that led me to leave the Deluxe, that and Gary's inflated pride on his famous pastry. One morning the phone rang. Everyone but Gary and me was outside smoking. Gary said, "Hey Gomer, will you grab that? I have my hands full." I picked it up and said, "Good morning, Deluxe," which, even though I had never heard it said that way, seemed to me the correct way to say it. It was the owner calling, Bernie from Brooklyn. Sometimes he came into the restaurant. The original Deluxe was up on Capitol Hill where he had an office, and everyone snapped to at the sight of him like he was Sergeant Carter come unannounced for inspection. "Who is this?" he demanded. "Who's this?" I said. "Put Gary on the phone," said the boss man. Actually, he used an adjective before the word phone, which I will leave to your imagination. I was told never to answer the phone again, for any reason, ever. Fine by me. I quit the next day. My leaving was not over something so trivial as being stood down for drawing out the E in deluxe. It was more the quality of the food, frankly. Even at 20, not exactly a success in life, I had standards. Why work in a place whose claim to fame was a bunch of nuts and syrup layered in flaky phyllo dough that, despite all its fanciness, would not last 6 weeks on a shelf at Boykins? That's written by Michael Parker, the author of 5 novels and 2 short story collections. And now we're just going to flip through the magazine. Take a look. Oh, look at that. Lots of advertisements. We have our brackets. our state. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed getting to hear about pie versus cake. Which one do you like better? I'm more of a cake person, I think. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again really soon.